Welcome, everyone. You had up on your screen the words of America the Beautiful, and we will hope to play a beautiful version of it for you later. It's good to see you and to be together. I'm Alana Azin, the CEO of JPro Network. We are really grateful to the Mayberg Center for co-presenting today's program. We welcome the full range of ways that you might be showing up: tired, nervous, delighted, devastated, hopeful, empowered, seeking inspiration. Please look to the chat now for information about the recording of this session and closed captioning. We hope that the program today will be useful to you in two ways. First, we hope that this time to connect with colleagues will help your personal and professional meaning making. Second,
Hi, buddy.
we hope that hearing from thought leaders about how they are navigating this moment will help you clarify how you will exercise professional leadership as the results of the election unfold. JPro Network is the organization of, by, and for all those who work in Jewish organizations, regardless of their religious identity. We intend this program to be welcoming to professionals of all religions and to the multiplicity of ways of being Jewish. There are at least 80,000 Jewish community professionals in the United States. We are in a profoundly important position when our communities are experiencing difficulty and division. We all have members, communities, students, donors, or participants. Our words and actions impact them. This is also true if we do not speak or act. We can show up in ways that move many people. This is our responsibility and our opportunity. Here are some of the questions that we've been grappling with at JPro about our leadership on consequential public issues. When should we build bridges across passionately held opposing beliefs? And when should we push for what we deeply believe to be right? When should we listen? And when should we speak? When should we open ourselves to doubt? And when should we stand firm? When should we work harder? And when should we rest? I believe that all of you will help us in our process of discernment. Thank you in advance for the wisdom that you'll share over the next 70 minutes and beyond. Here's our agenda. We'll learn with Dr. Erica Brown until 1:30. Then you'll get instructions on how to choose your breakout group. You'll be with your group for about 35 minutes, and then we'll come back together for a brief closing that includes a special invitation for each of you. Here are the ground rules that we sent out in advance. We know that national politics can be polarizing and heighten emotions. This is a nonpartisan program. We ask participants to refrain from name calling, speaking in generalizations, and promoting stereotypes. If you do not comply with these guidelines, you will be removed from the session. While the program itself is nonpartisan, our speakers have been invited to share their views in ways that are respectful of our community's diversity. We're so grateful to everyone who is leading during this program: Edith Klein, Shahana McKinney-Baldin, William Daroff, Or Mars, who is interviewing Edith, and Jacob Solomon, who is interviewing William. Welcome and thank you to Esther Mack, our closed captioner. The JPro staff team has rallied to plan our special election programs. In particular, I want to thank Laura Herman, who has led this work. JPro Network has worked with the Mayberg Center and Dr. Erica Brown several times now, and we are so grateful for the partnership. Erica, we learn so much from the content of your teaching and how you show up when we work together. You are always making space for others, lifting us up, and helping us grow. It is a gift to have you as our colleague and teacher. Erica.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Today's an anxious day, as I imagine is for many of you. Even at the very hour, at the very minute, you may be looking at a set of numbers as we're here together. I just want to thank you for being a sacred congregation in which to really spend this time, and also thank you because I'm working with you now. I'm not binge eating, which is what I've been doing for the past 2 days. So thanks for being with me. I know that the feelings are high, but I think the expectation of our leadership is great at this moment. And that's what I want to talk to you about. It started during COVID and it's picked up momentum during these tense political weeks. I've heard people say in the Jewish communal leadership space, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I signed up for. Things are rough. This is a divisive time. This is a frightening time. This is a time of uncertainty. This isn't what I signed up for. Well, life isn't something that any of us signed up for. We're here. And I think actually what I'd like to do with you is to think together about not only being here, but leaning into this moment and leading as we have never led before. And I want to do that within a particular framework. So I'm going to share my screen. And really feel free to unmute and join me in thinking about issues and talking. I want to share with you a quote from Lincoln. I'm thinking, very profoundly about what it means to be an American. And this quote really, in some way, summed up a lot of the anxiety that I've been experiencing. I've been driven many times upon my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I had nowhere else to go. My own wisdom and that of all about me seemed insufficient for that day. And so I think that no matter what we've studied, no matter all the pundits that we've read, the television that we've watched, the cable news, the wisdom is insufficient for the period of time that we're in right now. Because of course, we all know that whoever becomes president, there's so much work to do. There's so much fracturing to heal. And we may feel that we're on one side of this aisle, but our clients, our donors, our partners are somewhere else. And we've got to, clean up the fracture and heal it. So I wanted to start with this hologram. Remember the magic eye that was all in? So I'm not going to ask you to look at this hologram and spend time, but I remember really struggling with these holograms because, someone else would see it and you go, just make your eyes blurry and you'll see it and you'll see it. And I'd be like, I can't see it. I just can't see it. And some people seem to have the knack. So what I'm going to invite you to do for the next half hour is to pretend that America is this hologram. It's an image that we hold dear that right now has been clouded by so much negativity and divisiveness that we can't see the beautiful America, the beautiful and noble act of leadership because of those clouds. And so what I'm asking you is not to look really clearly, but to actually blur your eyes so you can imagine that kind of America that you love and that we need to rebuild. So I want to begin with an article I hope that you have read. If you haven't, please join me in reading this. I'm going to just read some excerpts for you. Either Trump or Biden will win, but our deepest problems will remain. At the heart of our pervasive crisis of alienation are widespread failures of responsibility, deep-seated cultural divisions, and a deadly dearth of solidarity. Such challenges can seem impossibly immense when we look at our country from the top down. No president could resolve them. No Congress could address them. But from the bottom up, there are more opportunities to take them on. That's not because there's some magic to local action. It's because what has broken down is fundamentally communal and institutional, so that a recovery of the ethos required for our national politics to function is likely to happen closer to the interpersonal level. And here's where we all come in as Jewish communal professionals. As what Levin is saying is the job to fix is not going to happen at the top, but it's going to happen closer to where the action it happens in the interpersonal relationships that are the bread and butter of our work. We tend to look at forms of breakdown in our society, says Levin, in terms of what they produce: anger, cynicism, a rejection of tradition. But we would be wise to also consider what they implicitly demand and yearn for: responsibility, integrity, and above all, solidarity. So what I'd like to think about is this time as a plea for solidarity, for unity, and a plea for clarity. And we'll start with unity first. The plea for unity. So, of course, looking at some famous Americans and their thoughts, it's not in numbers, but in unity that our great strength lies. Madison, in the 14th Federalist paper, most alarming of all novelties, the most wild of all projects, the most rash of all attempts, is that of rendering us in pieces in order to preserve our liberties and promote our happiness. We can't preserve liberty and happiness when the goal is rendering our community into pieces. And I don't know about you, but I think we're in pieces right now. And that's not only because COVID has pixelated all of us and prevented us from being together physically, but also because we're afraid to say things. We're afraid to feel things. We minimize ourselves, and we prevent robust conversation from taking place because we don't want to offend. And at the same time, people are offending all over Facebook, all over Twitter, all over TikTok, all over the newspapers. Jeff Levin's on this call, so I'm going to thank him for the book that he sent me by Arthur Brooks, Love Your Enemies, How Decent People Can Save America from the Culture of Contempt, and just share with you something that Brooks says. Unity does not necessarily mean agreement. Unity is always an aspiration. I'll have to correct that later. We will never be 100% unified. Nevertheless, though not perfectly attainable, the goal to be more unified is still the right one to give us more of what we want as people. And I want to share a conversation with you from many years ago. I was speaking in a community in New Jersey. I was picked up at Newark Airport by two women and two lay leaders. And we got around to talking about taglines. And one of them said, remember when we used to have that tagline, "We are one"? Whatever happened to that tagline? And the other, the driver said, well, I guess we don't have it anymore because we don't believe in it. And all of a sudden, there was this pause and this quiet. And the other woman quietly whispered, I still believe in it. And I think that what Brooks says is right on target. When we say unity, we don't mean that everyone agrees. And in fact, Jews, as the people of the Talmud, can disagree on every page multiple times and not come to resolution and fall in love together with the process of asking questions as opposed to seeking uniformity in our answers. And of course, the plea for unity is perhaps best said in this beautiful song, Shir Hamalot LeDavid, Hine Matov Umanaim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. How good and how pleasant it is that brothers dwell together, or I'll translate it as siblings, as kinsmen, as relatives, as an extended family. How beautiful it is that humanity can dwell together. But often we never sing the beginning of this song, Shir Hamalot, that it's a song of ascents. And it was dwelling together is something that we work towards, we rise towards incrementally. It's not something that we take for granted. It's something that requires intentional types of communities and relationships. So with this plea for unity, let's think about a prayer for clarity. And I say that because I've been thinking that the polls may be closed, but as we say in Deuteronomy Rabbah and Devarim Rabbah, the gates of prayer are always open. A.J. Heschel said, and I invite you, I actually posted it on Facebook because it was so important to me. My friend Deborah Lipstadt sent it to me yesterday. It was A.J. Heschel's conversation with an interviewer on The Eternal Light, a BBC program in 1972. It's just a really wonderful and profound interview. And he said, I'd say to young people a number of things. Remember, there's a meaning beyond absurdity. Let's be sure that every little deed counts, that every word has power, that we can do, that everyone can do our share to redeem the world. And one of the things that Heschel said that really struck me, the interviewer said, you know, you've seen so much in your lifetime. What surprises you? And he said, everything surprises me. And I think we've been thinking about that within the political realm, but in a negative sense. And our job as people of wonder is to say, we can see surprise, we can see wonder in everything, and it's a good thing. Yaffa Gans, our prayer can be a wordless cry from the depths of the heart. So I know that many of you have been praying without praying, and some of you have been praying with an actual prayer book, a Siddur, and the prayers come out in lots of different ways. And for many people up to now, the prayer has been for a specific president, as opposed to the prayer that we need to think about post-election for our entire community, our entire country. What is that prayer? What is that wordless cry? So, in the spirit of the Cranjik project, trying to balance out, make sure that we have as many women cited as men. Prayer is where I go to turn off the noise of life. It's there that I connect to the one who made me and reminds me what is true, right, and expected of me in this life. And then Naomi Levy's beautiful daily prayer for insight. Open my eyes, God. Help me to perceive what I have ignored, to uncover what I've forgotten, to find what I've been searching for. Remind me that I don't have to journey far to discover something new, for miracles surround me, blessings and holiness abound, and you are near. Amen. And her daily prayer for insight is echoed in a very ancient prayer for insight. It's the beginning of the 18 benedictions, the Amidah or the Shemona Esrei that we say, that traditional Jews utter multiple times a day. And I want to think with you about this, its meaning. Ata chonen. Ata chonen la'adam da'at, u'melamed le'enosh binah. You, chonen la'adam da'at, it's not you give man insight. It's actually, if you can imagine, you grace an individual with insight. And we ask God to teach us understanding. Not only that, but to actually bestow upon us a little sliver of that perception and divine intellect. And that notion that we ask for this is that we know that we can't make all these decisions. We can't get clarity on a situation that continually clouds us. Karl Popper, the philosopher, talked about the distinction between cloud problems and clock problems. Clock problems are relatively easy to solve. You figure out the pieces, you put it together, a piece breaks, and you figure it out. But when it comes to cloud problems, you grab for something and it's not there. It's not easy to figure out. And that's what we're standing in front of. And that's when I pray for wisdom. And this prayer is actually very meaningful for me. And of course, we know that the Havdalah prayer is actually said within this prayer on a Saturday night. And to me, it signals that when Shabbat is finished and there's lots of decisions to make about the week ahead, we think to ourselves, what kind of wisdom do I need? What kind of perception? What kind of understanding? What kind of knowledge? And that's really my challenge to all of us is what happens not in the next few days, but what happens after Havdalah, after Shabbat, this Shabbat, when we reflect on what's just happened this week. What prayer, what wisdom, what understanding, what perception will we need to recreate communities of healing, of compassion, of empathy? As Rabbi Jonathan Sachs so beautifully says, the world we build tomorrow is born in the prayers we say today. So I'm going to ask you to do right now with this prompt of what's your professional prayer for this moment after the election is to not pray for yourself or a particular president, but as a Jewish communal professional, pray for the kinds of, write a little prayer for me. I'm just going to give you a minute on the clock. So it's going to be quick. Take out a piece of paper and a pen, and there'll be opportunities to share if you would like to share. But a prayer for the moment after the election about the kinds of communities we want to create post-election. So I'm going to put a minute on my clock, and I'm going to do my own homework, of course, and ask you to write yours. Okay, time's up. Would anyone like to share? Please feel free to unmute. Love to hear your thinking on this.
I'll share.
Please.
Hi.
Hi, Randy.
Mine is short. I ask you, God, to give every participant in our nation the ability to see the humanity in others. Amen.
Amen. Gorgeous. Thank you. Short and sweet and saying what needs to be said. Anyone else want to share?
I can share.
Please. Thank you, Farah.
God, grant me the courage and listening skills to seek understanding of all perspectives and motivations. Grant me the audacity and confidence to pursue change and take risks. Grant me humility and power to support and amplify the voices of those who have been oppressed. Grant me patience and perseverance in times of strife, setbacks, and sadness. Blessed are you, God, creator of hope.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that prayer for audacity and hope. Nina, I hope you don't mind. Can I share yours or would you like to share yours?
Bakasha.
Is that me or you?
You please. I'm a little tech challenged right now.
Okay, I'm so there with you. That's a good prayer, a prayer for to master Zoom. So Nina Bruder, thank you. Said I pray for a community free of hate and full of eager empathy. I want to read Manny Manchel's as well. Love the idea of eager empathy. That's beautiful. Manny says a post-election professional prayer. May we empower ourselves and those around us with courage and calm, conviction and tolerance, purpose and patience, and empathy for all, recognizing that many wins for some involve losses for others. Thank you. Jeff, I know that you have one here that you sent me privately. I know it kind of outed you. Would you mind sharing it?
Sure. Ribono Shel Olam, give us the vision to see each other in our wholeness, not our parts. Give us the courage and the wisdom to fight ideas, but to love people, so that together we can heal and unite our fractured people.
Thank you. Beautiful. The prayer for wholeness instead of the parts. And again, this doesn't have to involve God. You don't have to be a God-fearing or God-believing person. It's really just, what's the plea? Debbie, would you like to read yours, Debbie?
Sure, okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
I pray for a community that hears and listens, that will go behind and beyond the rhetoric to deeper personal understanding.
Thank you. Thank you. Hears and listens. Anyone else want to share? There's still room for more. Jacob, do you have something you'd like to share with us? I always love to hear Jacob, so I put him on the spot.
I got stuck. I started with may we have the humility and the love for the other to force rooms in our hearts. And then I got stuck because what I really wanted to say for people who I am despising right now. And I don't know how to ask for that or to earn that, but that's what I want to be praying for right now.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Jacob, I've had so many conversations this week with people who, they're involved in public service and their experience of hate right now is very deep and they're trying to overcome the hate, and name it and then say, I'm ashamed of feeling this. I want to make, the heart is a place with many chambers. So I appreciate your work on it and the struggle of it. There's been some beautiful ones. I'm going to read them. Martine, pray for responsible discourse among all people, for the individual to search and create a sense of belonging to community and to help build a just world. Devorah's no more us than them. America is a we. Karen, I pray for strength to channel the emotion and anger and disillusionment I feel at this moment in order to continue the critical work of racial justice and healing. Thank you so much. And Michelle mentions the updated version of the Serenity Prayer, which is really I've been speaking with my JPro partners, particularly about the Serenity Prayer, and saying that if there's some mantra that is giving you a sense that fuels a sense or inspires a sense of devoting oneself to the work, or says, or do you want to share? Because I really want you to read it.
When I can't see the divine sparks in everyone, then the problem is with my eyes. Blessed is God who opens my eyes.
Oh my gosh, I just want to cry. Wow.
Oh
Amen.
God.
Big amen to that. Yeah. Sometimes the solution is right there and we don't see it. We don't see it. Anyone else want to share? William, you look like you're just about to say something. I just feel like there's just something right there, right near the suit and the tie, right near the tie.
I was just thinking, I sure hope Erica doesn't call on me.
That's a good prayer, but that happened already.
That's good. I don't have anything brilliant to add here. I'm saving it all for the breakout session, but thank you for putting me on the spot, fellow Washingtonian.
God grant me the serenity to accept people's views that are not my own. Michelle says the courage to respect them fully and the wisdom to learn from them every day. Amen. I'm not going to call on anyone else. That backfired, but it's interesting for people who say, I have the sentiments, but I'm struggling a little bit with the language, and that's fair, being put on the spot. And I think one of the challenges right now is to reach deep inside and find the language of love, of warmth, of community, and in particular, at least for me, my daughter had a conversation with me, my 19-year-old, my youngest, last week at the dinner table. I was getting very upset about something in the political discourse, and she said, what about mental health and well-being? Where does that fit into politics? Is what she was watching were many of her friends and many of her friends' parents and her own parents being so engaged, almost preoccupied with the political process, that I didn't realize that we were giving off the impression that leadership is not noble, that it's somehow dirty work. And all of us are here on this call because we believe profoundly in the gift of public service, and it's what we've devoted our lives to. And so that's our job. We're, again, on the front lines of returning nobility to leadership and nobility to service and nobility to politics and nobility to community. So I want to thank you for joining me in the plea to unity and the plea for clarity. I think we all need it. And in some way, I love the hologram image, because in order to get to clarity, sometimes you have to cloud your eyes. There's a beautiful interpretation of why some people close their eyes on Friday night when they bless their children, so that they don't see any of their faults. And in some way, there's a balance of seeing something clearly and then also closing our eyes to some of the negativity, blurring the space so that we can see clearly the America we know and love, the Jewish community we know and love, and that we as Jewish communal professionals we're not catching up to where everyone is. We're trend setting, that we're returning to public service the dignity that it always had. That's our job. And so I know that we might not have signed on for this climate, but let's lean into it and let's do it with honor and dignity. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back to my partners at JPro.
Thank you, Erica. Over the last 25 minutes, I felt the climate within myself shift. Thank you for leading us through this. You called us a congregation at the beginning, and this felt like a powerful kind of congregating. We are now going to switch over to a different mode of engagement and a different climate, which we'll be hearing from and asking questions of three remarkable thought leaders from our professional community. And I really want to encourage you to listen for how Shahana or Edith or William are going through their own process of discernment about their leadership in this moment and their organization's leadership. I encourage you to listen for what they're thinking about, how they're struggling, how they're leading. And I encourage you to make the connections to your own leadership. What in what you're hearing in your breakout group can inform how you will be exercising leadership going forward. I turn it over now to another beloved Erica Goldman, who's going to give us instructions about breakout groups.
I have the logistic part of this beautiful program. In a moment, if you have the latest version of Zoom, you should be able to choose which breakout room you would like to go to yourself. If that option does not appear for you, don't worry, we will handle that as well. But let me start that. If you do have the latest version of Zoom, it should be the case that down at the bottom of your screen where it says More, you can click that and then choose breakout rooms, and then it will allow you to go directly to the room that you want to go to, that you choose. So check down in the bottom of your screen, see if there's an option down there under More for breakout rooms, and then you can choose your room.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope that your breakout room conversations were productive and insightful. We'll just give the technology another few seconds to bring people back into the room.
I think we're back. Thank you. Thank you again to our speakers and interviewers. I really hope that each of you is taking greater connection and clarity from the time that we've spent together. I have just a few words to close us out. First, the invitation that I promised. I want to invite everyone who hasn't yet had an opportunity to share the prayer that you composed with us. We are looking for opportunities for JPro and the Mayberg Center to share your thoughts. The climate in this group changed, and one way that we might take action is by sharing the wisdom of this group more broadly. You can share in the chat, and you see in the chat that there are some other options for how you can share. We will not share your name unless you explicitly ask us to do so. So these will be shared without any attribution. I want to just, before I share a closing prayer, I want to call to your attention a few upcoming programs, a few JPro offerings and some Mayberg Center offerings. And those will appear in your chat momentarily as well. So first of all, JPro Network and JFNA together are running an initiative called RISE, which is a series of programs and supports for people who have lost their jobs or been furloughed since March 1st. So if you are in that position or someone you know who worked in the Jewish community and is no longer employed in the Jewish community, please direct them to RISE. JPro has a program called Well Advised, in which JPro members can access one-time confidential advising. If there's anything from this session that you want to further discuss, Well Advised is a good place to go. And JPro has a course coming up, one of our master classes, Introduction to Racial Justice with April Baskin. The class is running for the second time. It did sell out the first time around. So I encourage you, if you're interested, to sign up for that very soon. And the Mayberg Center has several programs coming up that will delve more deeply into questions facing us as the results of the election unfold. Phenomenal speakers. You'll get to hear from Dr. Erica Brown again. And so please click on the link and sign up for those programs. The thought that I want to close us out on is something I was thinking about this morning as my eyes were glazing over as I was listening to CNN and brushing my teeth and feeling, really sort of dizzy and overwhelmed. I was thinking about the meditation classes that JPro and JFNA have been offering through RISE, and the teaching in meditation about our breath, that our breath is a cycle, that we are always breathing in or breathing out. And I've had meditation teachers who speak about the waves of the ocean as a metaphor for the breath. But I was thinking this morning actually about the image of a child on a swing, as an image for the breath. And there's that moment, that feeling of being on a swing when you're switching directions, from the forward to the backward, where your stomach can sort of drop, that just moment where you're switching. So applying that to the breath, to the inhale and the exhale. In this moment right now, we are exactly between Election Day and Shabbat. And I was thinking about the week as an inhale and Shabbat as an exhale. And my prayer for us as professionals is that as we breathe through the outcomes of this election and the leadership work that we're called to do, that we can anchor to our breath and that there can be a smoothness as we move between inhale and exhale. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our teachers and the Mayberg Center. And we are going to aim to close out with the music that we had sought to begin with.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies. Por tus olas de granos ámbar, yo pisinasakote sa ibabaw ng mga prutas. America, America, God shed His grace on thee. Orba hijre ke saath taj tera cha, tu la mer bria. Bevat tu verrière tirotard, from sea to shining sea.
Thanks, everyone.